you could see us, we are dancing like we are in a club in Miami.
In 1994.
Yes, lady. Hello, welcome to our first podcast.
Hi.
This is our Mico Dance Podcast. I'm Mallory, the teacher.
I'm Rachel, the beginner.
And today we have a very special guest.
Hi, I'm Leydi, one of the OG students.
One of the OG students. Also, you turned on your sex operator voice, which I appreciated. She's like, hi, I'm Leydi.
It'll get annoying after.
No.
Either that or this is what gets us all the followers.
But yeah,
like,
ladies,
this is it.
I know they're like, this was their calling. Leydi is one of my, this is Mallory. Leydi is one of my original dance students. When I started teaching adult beginners, and
When I was a pop-up
I was gonna say
class.
when it was a pop-up class, and it wasn't even fully on the schedule.
I think I told you this when after your class, because I've been looking for an adult beginner jazz class, and after your class, I literally went to the owner and I was like, if you don't put this girl as every week an official instructor, I'm going to quit. I'm going to cancel my membership. And I remember you told me that she told you we've had threats.
Yeah. So thanks to Leydi, I have a full career. Well, thank you for your passion and dedication. Much appreciated.
You will be hired for PR when necessary.
Yeah, it was a very strategic first guess.
I love it.
But yeah, we brought you here today because we wanted to talk about, part of Mico Dance is we want dance to feel accessible to anyone and everyone, because I think that so often dance feels like what singing to me feels like, which is it feels impossible to do. It's only for professionals. It's only for people who have been doing it since they were 3. Mm-hmm. And you started dancing, really taking classes at what point? I guess want to get right into it.
Yeah.
And have you talked to us about your journey of really starting dance as a beginner, as an adult?
Of course. So technically I did dance in college, but it was because I had decided to switch from communications to musical theater. We had to take a musical theater class in college, and I've not been formally trained, nothing. I was like, but I have rhythm. I can do this. Whatever. And I remember being in that class, I was so lost. I was like, what is a pas de bourrée? What is a chassé? What are you talking about? What is technique? And so that was really my first official class. And then I had taken some other classes in my hometown, but they weren't really good. So then I took a break. And then once I moved to the city, once I moved to the city, there was a studio in town that everybody raved about. And I was like, oh, it's catered towards adults, So, and I love the story of the owner and how she started dance super late in life as well. She's Latina. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it was pretty much, I think I started at the specific studio, officially, formally training probably when I turned 23, 24. And since then I have not looked back. I love it.
Yay.
Yeah.
What drew you into dance? So I know that you said you changed majors in college. Was there something that drew you into dance to begin with, where you were like, this feels like the move, or was it just this is required as part of the major?
At first it was because it was required part of the major, but then I honestly, I've always loved dancing. I'm Latin, so I've always
You're a given.
It's a given.
It's in my blood.
It's in my blood. I come out of the womb salsa dancing. So it's if I've always loved dancing, but I've always learned I always knew Latin dancing. But when it came to formal jazz, ballet, contemporary, modern, whatever, I really honestly I just wanted to get better. I was I don't want to be that lost student in class that doesn't know what she's doing. And I think the trauma from my college class, I was no, I want to be able to keep up, and I want to be able to pick up choreography and audition for the regional theaters here in town. So that was what really motivated me. But then eventually I left musical theater, but the love for dancing was still I still wanted to keep dancing, and which is why till this day I haven't quit classes.
which is wonderful. I think the thing that all of my students have for the most part that are adult beginners or started as adults is like this traumatic class, so that you all are nodding your head.
Yes,
I feel like everyone has one.
Hear that,
yeah. Both Rachel Lamb and Leydi are nodding their heads. Yes. And because they both started as beginners, as adults, dancing. And so I know you keep saying the traumatic time. Yeah. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that? Because I think that background, I'm like, nothing about us. But I started dancing. I started dancing when I was 2 and I grew up competing. And so I feel like something that people take for granted when they start dancing so young is that it's so ingrained in you. And you're like, oh, well, when I say chassé, step, leap, you should just know what that is in your bones, because we know it is in our bones because we've been doing it for, whatever decades. And so I think what can be challenging for people who've been dancing their whole lives is to understand that when you come in fresh as an adult, you're starting from scratch essentially. And so if you could talk a little bit about your trauma.
So it actually didn't happen in college. I did struggle to keep up with this specific musical theater dance class, but it was still fun. Like we still did Cats, the Book of Mormon, like it was whatever. And the teacher was super incredible. So I can't, it wasn't really that. It was more like once I started branching out to other dance studios. And again, I was like a newbie to jazz. I knew some of the steps, but like as far as technique wise, I was lost. And I remember at this specific studio, I had taken classes with another teacher who did more like Latin jazz, but it was fun. It was like, who cares about formal technique? Just do whatever. If you don't know it, just figure it out. Like it's whatever. But then I was like, no, I want to try like to actually like formally start learning the vocabulary, the technique and stuff. And I went into this class that was advertised as a beginner's adult class, like jazz class. And I remember like the warm-ups were hard. Like everything about it made it seem with this specific teacher that like, because she was a super established dancer, like New York, all over the country, did all the things. And I felt like the moment I walked into that class, I don't know if this was her intention or if that's just how the class was, or maybe it was just not advertised the way it was supposed to, but it made it seem like this is a dancer's class. Like we do tutus and point here, and the warm-ups were hard. The stretching was like, it was just super hard. And I remember when we were doing Across the Floors, I had no idea what was going on. And then the way that she would have to like talk to me was kind of condescending. Like, you don't belong here. I know, Rachel, we've talked about this specific experience. We've had a similar experience before.
We did.
And
we sure did.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, after that day I was like, oh, okay, well, when is your beginner class? And then she said, oh, it's actually next Tuesday. Well, I went the next Tuesday. It was still the same dang thing. Can we cuss on this?
Yeah.
It was still the same damn thing.
I like how you asked if you could say damn as a cuss word. And then I also you were like fuck. You were like,
that you emphasized it too. The same damn class.
It was the same damn class, just different music. I swear. And I remember after that class, I left the class early and I was like crying in my car because I felt so like I didn't belong and I felt like such a loser, embarrassed because there was other girls who were leaping and doing all the beautiful things. And after that, I'm not gonna lie to you, like I was about to quit this specific studio and then malaria. Televisa presenta. No, seriously, Mallory, literally, like I think a month after that.
And like Beyonce with her hair blowing in the wind.
Literally, that's how it came. Because I was also taking another person's class. That was the only reason I was still going to stay there. It was a Latin and musical theater. The instructors taught musical theater and Latin. And but then I was like, I just really want a good technique class. And I was looking all over town and then asking you shall receive, and malaria comes.
And this is the part where I cry.
Which you can't see, but if you did, you'd see glassy eyes.
I'm known for crying a lot, so it'll probably happen a lot.
I cry a lot too.
I know. A lot of crying on this podcast. But yeah, thank you for saying that. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that your story is very common because Rachel, you're nodding your head yes again. Like this is very similar to what
you finally are like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm in my late 20s. I'm not flexible.
Amen.
I don't have any dancer strength and I'm going to go take a dance class for technique. And you walk in and you're like doing it in socks because you don't quite want to make the investment to buy shoes. And you're checking it out. And then you have a teacher, because sometimes you just end up with teachers that, I don't know, like they forget that they're at a recreational studio.
Thank you.
Or like they're like trying to like mimic ABT and you're like, we're not trying to be all that. Like, look, I think that the way that we've developed in our culture that yoga is something that you can do at any age and you get better as you get older. And there is some like higher impact stuff that's in dance. So I completely understand that. But I feel like the way that we look at yoga, like it's a longevity thing, or even martial arts for a lot of people do it like later in life. Dance is like, oh, you're 22, you're done, your career is over. It's like gymnastics or something. And some people just enjoy, I think, moving to music and like moving their bodies. And that was kind of like the category that I was in. And I wasn't trying to be a professional dancer. I don't have any like, allusions to that, but I thought that it would be nice to learn to move my body. I'm also an actress, and it's like it was a huge component, because it's no longer, but it was a huge component of insecurity that I had, was just my ability to move my body. Your brain hears music and it wants to do something, but there's just like that stop that you don't move freely and you get really self-conscious. So I was like, you know what, this is the year that I'm gonna go fix that. And you walk in and you have some asshole for a teacher.
Seriously.
And then I'm like, was
it the same teacher?
Yeah. Oh. And then I'm like, here's my specific memory. It was like we were doing it across the floor, and I don't know, you walk around the outside, so you just like go from one side to the other, and then they yell at you like you're 6 years old, and I'm like, lady. Not lady, you, like lady as in woman.
I just had no hope from the beginning.
I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And then I remember walking out of there and I was like, I knew it was a mistake. And it's so sad because there's so many other beginners, and in our city there are quite a few adult beginner studios. I know not all cities have that or have studios that teach adults. I think it's like becoming more common in major cities. But to be in a city center that has a couple options, and then you go and then that's your experience, it's hard to tell other people who are interested in dance, hey, go take a real class, because you know that there might be a 50-50 chance that they end up in that. Because I think almost anyone who's specifically taken a technique class, it's one thing to do like Zumba or like a hip hop or even like a Latin dance or ballroom, but specifically people who go try to take like a technique that's like jazz or contemporary or lyrical and like do leaps and turns and those types of classes end up with an experience like we had, where you walk out and you're like, this is not for me. I didn't do this young enough. I don't know what I'm doing at all, and no one's going to bother to teach me, and they're going to make me not feel like I don't belong there. When really I'm like, if you want to go be that kind of teacher, there's plenty of studios, way more of the other kind of studio than one where there's adult beginners. And I think that was my experience. And I got into dance because I had a few actor friends who were professional dancers in their like later 20s, and one of them I remember had started when she was 18 or 19, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know, like I wasn't even aware that you could start dancing that late. And again, not trying to be a professional dancer, but that really changed my perspective on what you could do with dance and the accessibility of it, in addition to having a place that you could go do it for like adult beginners.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you, Leydi, feel like having stuck it out, which is, I think a lot of people get stuck at that first hurdle, rightfully so, because I know especially, I mean, Rachel Lamb and I took a dance class recently that was a style that I'm not familiar with, and it was an adult beginner class. And even with all of the
was it the class?
Yes.
We'll edit that out.
This is not an uncut podcast.
But yeah, so Rachel Lamb and I took a dance class recently that was for adult beginners for a specific style that I hadn't done. And I, even with like 30 years of dance experience behind me, it was not broken down in a way that felt accessible to me. So I asked questions, and the teacher was so condescending to me that I was like, oh, I mean, luckily I was like fuck you. I belong here. We paid to be here. But I could easily see how I felt isolated from the rest of the class of people who clearly had been taking her class for a long time and were regulars.
And are okay with that. There are some people who are okay with that kind of treatment, I would just like to point out. Because I've been in a few classes where I do like the teachers like wit and other things. They break down things better than other teachers, but there's still that there. And you're like, whatever, I'll put up with it because your options are limited. So, but it's not necessarily something that is really comfortable for people from the beginning. And then on top of that, like, I mean, I'm an actress who's used to getting rejected all of the time. Yeah. I'm like used to dying on stage, doing improv and like and stand-up comedy and things like that. And I still like wanted to leave the room crying. So I can't imagine being like a normal person from like a 9-to-5 job that walks in and is like, I'm going to go be a dancer and get the same kind of treatment and then continue on. Like it takes a lot of, but that's the kind of thing that affects your personality. Like not only being comfortable with movement, but like making it through that unfortunately traumatic experience, which I hope this podcast brings awareness to and makes people think twice about that kind of treatment because it's not necessary.
And it's not necessary, correct. And even if you see other people in the class who seem okay with it or seem to enjoy it, it doesn't mean that you're crazy for not being okay with it and not enjoying it. Because I think that there was a brief moment even in that class where I was like, am I imagining things? And I was like, no, your feelings are valid and this person is being condescending. And that is okay if people want to be in that class. Like you said, I think people take dance classes for different reasons. But yeah, I think it's important for people to know that that doesn't have to be the only way. And that even if other people, like you look around and you're like, everyone else seems like they're doing fine, doesn't mean that you have to sit in that situation and like tough it out.
And I'm hoping that like hearing Leydi's experience and my experience, and we've also talked to several other people in our same position who have very, very similar experiences with different teachers. And I think understanding like when you walk in, if you feel that experience, just know you're like, oh, people go through this and it's stupid. At least you know it's stupid and it keeps you focused on your goal of being a dancer. And then you don't let that be the thing that stops you from an entire style of movement or something that like really makes you happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what happened when I started taking your classes, because I used to, in the other classes, even in the ones I love with the Latin jazz and all of that, with your class, it was, you really focused more on obviously individuality, but it was more like just don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just whether you get it or you don't get it, just keep moving. Like it doesn't matter. And I think once I really started ingraining myself, like it doesn't matter what the other person who's been dancing for 5 years or what the other person behind me or whatever is doing, like just do your best and focus on yourself. And I really think like your classes when you were teaching really like focused on like, don't give a fuck. Like really just don't give a fuck and just be that, fake it till you make it. Like even, it was so funny. Like even when I remember we would do across the floors in your leaps and turns class. And then you were like, there was like, we would do like something like the jazz walk. And then people would just literally be like walking and you're like, you guys, you aren't going to Walgreens. Like literally like show up for yourself. And I think like just, it was just really like, you really focused on like each individual person and not so much like how you look as a teacher and like what the people in the window are looking at, like when they see your class and, you know, like some majestic, like Cirque du Soleil kind of thing. Like you were just like, no, this is my class.
I would also like to point out that I've been dancing, I think now for a little over 2 years, 2.5 years. And jazz walks are still like the bane of my existence.
You're like, can we pause and talk about jazz walks?
Can we pause and say that, like, you know, I'm doing real well with isolations and like all of these other things and the weight on my foot and all and like flexibility. And walking on beat is still a challenge for me. So, and then like when you're in a beginning dance class, the first thing they're like is walk across the floor and you're like, how do my feet work? It's like the first thing you forget how to do is like something you've been doing since you're 2 years old.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say too, a huge part of what, I mean, because I got just as much out of those classes as I think y'all did, if not more. But I think that a huge part of what made those classes and what makes classes really wonderful for me is the community and the students. And so people like you, people like Rachel Lamb and people like, you know, Shu and Courtney and Rachel, like everyone, all these people, I'm like, oh, because then you all started to help each other.
Yes.
And that was really beautiful. And so I think that that's something that people can be encouraged about too, is you can find your people. Like we have found classes too, Rachel Lamb and I, where I'm like, oh, as a student, these are my people. Like these are the people that feel correct and this is my new community. And so a huge part of finding a studio or finding a class or finding a teacher is like finding that community.
And it is a big deal because now with like Instagram and how some people are making every single one of their classes like an audition piece, I don't know. Nothing wrong with that, like no judgment, but again,
you're like no judgment, but I'm judging you.
No judgment, but I ain't trying to be all that. And so sometimes like you'll end up in a class where you like, you know, struggle with something and somebody else struggled with the same thing and they're out there to help you. And then there's the other ones who are like, you know what, like I am going to be a professional and none of you people should be here. And I'm like, okay.
It's like they're reliving their like, what is it, unachieved dreams by trying to be like this like Russian I don't know what they're doing. I'm thinking about this specific teacher where we both had traumatic experiences. I'm like, why are you being like, why?
There is like a specific personality though that pops up in multiple places because it's not just this one studio that I've seen it. It's like others and it's fine. Like I don't think they have a responsibility to be nice to beginners or adult beginners. True. But I would just really like to vocalize that person who has more experience in dance and all those types of things does not deserve to be there more than you. And I think that as long as you keep that in mind, if you experience that personality, you can just let it roll off your back, find your people, do the thing that you like. And hopefully this is one of those things that will make it, you know, more of a longevity thing for different kinds of people.
I mean, for the love of God, you're paying for this class. Why should you have to put up with feeling like you don't deserve to be there?
Yeah, as two customers.
And I think that this is the thing that I would love for you to talk about, Leydi, is like on the other side of that traumatic experience, what do you feel like you have gotten on the other side?
That's a very layered question.
I know. I'm like, there's probably a lot you could say, but I'm just curious if anything stands out because there is, I think, something to be said about the long game and sticking it out through that hard part in the beginning.
I think for me, that specific instance was my motivation. Just like it happened with college, like to being lost in class in college, I was like, no, I want to get better. I want to get better, especially when I was pursuing the musical theater route. But then after this specific traumatic experience, I was like, no, like, I can do this. I can do hard things. Like, I can do this. Obviously, like, you don't know what you don't know. Like, I just had to tell myself, like, I had to like be very like compassionate with myself and be like, Leydi, this doesn't mean like you don't deserve to dance and you're going to die and everything's going to whatever. Like, no, I'm being dramatic, but like, it's more like, I'm so glad I kept moving forward and I didn't quit. Because eventually I was like, no, like I'm going to get better. Even if, you know, I have to keep searching for other classes. Like, I just kept moving forward. And, you know, like 2.5, 3 years later, like, because I love Latin dancing. That's like, I feel like that's specifically my calling. But I have gotten tremendous, like after your classes and after other technique classes that I found, I am not the dancer that I was when I first started at the specific studio. Obviously, I'm still learning and growing, but I'm so happy that I kept moving forward no matter what. And I think that's what I would tell everyone is like, you know, just one experience doesn't mean like it's make it or break it. Like, no, like just keep moving forward. If this is something that you really want to do and you set your mind to it, like it'll align. Like you'll find the resources, you'll find the community, you'll find it. And you bring a community, and it's also like, I had such like amazing like support system as you as a teacher, but also like the community we found, like our performer series, remember?
It got killed by COVID.
Literally the week before our show, COVID was like, nah.
Yeah, we still had like the performances on the schedule. We did our dress. We did like 1 of 2 dress rehearsals, and then it was just shut down.
Yeah, I was gonna use my outfit, for Halloween.
Just so we know, we looked great.
We looked hot. We looked like Beyonce. Good. We were on the Formation tour. Like
yeah, y'all were killing it. I'm like RIP that performance because y'all were there.
I also stole that choreography from the Prince song for an audition that I got pinned. I didn't book it, but I got pinned for it, and I was like, well, you look at that. I never wanted to be a professional dancer, and I got pinned for a commercial with some choreography from like a beginner's class.
Wait, I used the conga. It was that same audition, but I didn't get pinned.
You're like, but I fucking killed it.
Looked great. We know it did.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing that you brought up, Leydi, is just like keep moving forward. And I think that a question that I get a lot of times from people is like, well, you know, how often do I need to go and how long until I see progress and what can I do at home? And I think that's great. I think even if you show up to one class once a week, like every Tuesday after work from 7 to 8 p.m. And it's like a cardio dance class that you love.
Yeah.
That consistency will get you places.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, it really will get you places, because I think that what happens is then the first class is usually the hardest, and then the second class is exponentially easier, I would say.
Yeah.
Not always, but I think that you'll be surprised at how much your body and your muscles like retain what you learned the previous week or the previous class. And then you'll wake up in like a month or 2 months and be like, wait a minute, I know what a pas de bourrée is. Like your body will just kind of take over, right?
Like my hips and my shoulders are moving when I need them to in the correct direction.
I think for me, you're right. Like I was taking your class once a week because you only offered it once a week at the time.
Yeah.
But literally, I remember I was so happy because I had struggled with doing a pirouette, just a single pirouette. And then after taking your class consistently just once each week before your leaps and turns class got introduced, I remember like I went for it and I was like, I did a pirouette. Like literally I was like 4 or 5 months after, I was like, I did a pirouette. And then I remember like it was like towards like the end before, you moved and stuff. I did a double pirouette and I was like, oh my God. Like,
I would just like to argue that the majority of people in the world probably can't do a single pirouette. You're already beating the majority of people in the world.
Yeah. And one thing that I really actually want to compliment you, Leydi, about as a teacher is you ask a lot of questions in class. And I actually really enjoy that, because it's really funny. As a student in class, a lot of teachers would be like, any questions? And it'd be quiet. And they'd be like, okay, quiet
I'll figure it out in the next round by myself.
Yeah. And as someone who teaches beginners or really any class, I love questions. And so I always appreciated that you'd ask questions. And a lot of times you'd ask questions and someone in the other side of the room would be like, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Put it into words that I could not.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's an important thing for people to know too, that asking questions is a gift to the rest of the class.
It is.
It really
It might not feel that way if you end up in a class, but we're warning you ahead of time. I'm like, yes, this is how you grow. And this is part of that weird character building aspect that you can only get in in-person classes that gives you this weird confidence when you go out into the world. I should point out, because that was something, I mean, like to go from an insecurity about like moving your body to music, which is, I mean, I get the same thing with singing where it's like you seize up and you're like, God, I don't want to do this. But with, movement, it doesn't have to be like that. You can ask questions. And then even if you feel embarrassed, like just keep doing it, because it doesn't, like, know that that's what you're supposed to do and you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. I had, I think this was before you got to the studio, Mallory, I was taking Latin hip hop and Latin jazz with my boo-boo Carlito. Hi. If you're hearing this, I love you, puppy. Anyway, no, he's in New Orleans doing all the great things and being an actor and awesome. But he also taught Bhangra. But I
liked his class too.
Oh, he's amazing. But I cried legit when he was moving. I was like, no. But anyway, so I remember like I would also be the one to ask questions, and he was like, does anybody have any questions? And the whole class would be silent, and I'm like, wait, I have a question. And then literally people would be like, oh, thank God, I was about to struggle with that. So he's like, guys, ask questions. You guys are paying to be here. Like,
yeah, it's like one thing if you're late and you missed half the choreography and you're asking a question. But I mean, if it's like
I know a few people like that.
legitimate question, don't like, because sometimes there are teachers that'll treat you like this is an obvious thing. Like of course it's always like right, left. I'm like, yeah, except when it's right, left, right. Right, left, right.
Then right again.
Left, right, left. You know what I mean? Like there's times you step on the same foot, guys. So
which again is something that I think some teachers take for granted, because if you've been dancing your whole life, you're like, of course a chassé is a right, up, left, right. Like what else would it be?
Arms in opposition. Of course, like, I mean, now that I've been doing it for 2 years, I can feel how natural that is. And I can only imagine what it's like to be doing that since you're 6 years old. But as an adult who doesn't move their body that way for the majority of their life, a lot of things aren't natural. And then I remember how difficult it was just even being behind the instructor and having to look at the back of an instructor with the front of them in the mirror. And now I'm used to that, but I couldn't even like face the correct direction in class. I was really glad. I had one of my friends who's a professional dancer, no rhyme or reason to this advice, but I really appreciated it because it was hilarious. She was like, yeah, just go. This is the one who like started dancing as an 18, 19-year-old. She's like, yeah, just keep going all the time. It's going to suck for 7 months. and then
so
one day you'll wake up and like you'll be able to do it. And there was no rhyme or reason to that 7 months. And I just happened to be a person who was able to go like 4 or 5 days a week. And I already drove to the studio, so I'd take a couple classes, and I knew this. I'm like, just hit it hard, be miserable for however much time, and it'll like turn around. And having that made those months that I really wasn't facing the correct direction or doing anything right, and getting demeaned for my questions or whatever else by the occasional teacher, it made it worth it. After one day, I remember doing it, and everything was just clicking. And it was months later. And I mean, if you're going like 1 day a week, that might be a lot more than 7 months, but just know that like other people have tried before you and it sucked for a while. But then I still went, like you still start to enjoy it. Like every few weeks, you're like, the more your body can move to music freely, and like you get to experience how it feels when you're like doing choreography and that part of your brain clicks on that's not thinking, and it just like your body moves before you can think about what you need to do. It gets really exciting. And like, so I hope that encourages you to keep going to the point where you're like, it'll get better.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Just keep moving forward. Like just you got to keep going. If this is something you really want to do or you're really interested in and you really love it, like you just got to keep going no matter what.
Like if you're one of those yoga people who's like, yoga's a practice and you practice it every day and it's like 7 years from now, you're still practicing. I'm like, look, dance can be that too.
Yes. I think that's a great example. And also just like in yoga, sometimes I'm like doing push-ups before I do like my up dog, and sometimes I'm just in child's pose. I think you have to like, every day is going to be a little bit different.
It's not always regression. Some days you have good turn days. Some days you have horrible turn days.
Yes. Well, we all remember the infamous time I was just trying to do a single. I'm like, how come I was doing 5 pirouettes the other day and today I can't even do a single?
When we were filming one of the videos, Mallory shows up and I think she did like 5 pirouettes on a bare foot. And I was like, whoa. And she's like, yep, it's a good turn day. 2 hours later, she could not even nail a single. She's about to throw herself off my balcony.
Cue meltdown number 36. I was like, this is the end.
The Lilo meme, leave me alone to die.
She was getting an engraved gravestone for her dance career.
Oh, I was so upset. It was if that means anything, and I've been dancing for 30 years. So
yeah, just imagine what an audition's like.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think that a really great point that you bring up though, Rachel Lamb, is that dance is supposed to be fun. I mean, hopefully, right? I think that that's the thing that we all forget. I think I forget about that too, is that you probably were drawn to it to begin with because you were hoping to get some sort of joy from it, whatever that means to you. And I think that's like such a beautiful light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes it's only like a bright and shining moment in an hour and a half class. And sometimes it doesn't come for a few months. And sometimes you have 3 weeks of pure bliss in class, and then you have fucking 6 months that are shitty. But I think if you can find the joy in dancing, because to me, dance almost feels spiritual to me at points. I don't know if you all feel that way.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, I feel like I hate to use so many yoga references and be that person. But I was doing yoga for a couple years before I started, before I got the confidence to go do dance, because I'm a very, very, like, flexibility does not come easily to me. And so I've always struggled with my flexibility for a long time. And so like I did yoga for a couple years before I'm like, okay, I think I can show up to a dance class and not embarrass myself in some of these warm-ups that are rather unnecessary, but geez, like I can't even sit in that position or whatever. And so I did yoga for a couple years and then jumped into dance class. And I could see a lot of crossover between like the mind, body, breathing and those types of things. And also being able to clear your head because of yoga, and then you go and deal with some of that crap in a dance class. It is kind of nice to have that centering and be like, okay, well, let it roll off your back.
Yeah.
Find your own zen in the midst of chaos.
And then I want to shout out Rachel Lamb, who got me into hot yoga. I used to be the one to be like, yoga's for like privileged people. But no, like I'm a bit like, I am obsessed with hot yoga, but
I'm just over here being evangelical about it.
I know. She also got me into hot yoga. I don't know if you know this, but I was like, it like changed my life. Again, I don't want to be that person.
It's almost like I'm great PR for studios or something.
And we also have like we all share the same yoga teacher. Like she's phenomenal.
Well, let me tell you, this is how evangelical Rachel Lamb is about it. A couple months ago, the studio owner / teacher got Rachel Lamb a candle as a thank you gift because she brought so many students to the studio.
Oh yeah, I remember you told me. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm just out there being a missionary.
Listen, if you can get Rachel Lamb hooked on whatever your product or service is, this girl will shout it from the rooftops. So just like know that.
Also make me angry. Watch what we talk about on a podcast.
She says I'm hot and cold, but sometimes this bitch is hot and cold.
Ice.
But I also, what I think is interesting is Leydi and Rachel, I'm like, the three of us are clearly friends at this point, like very good friends. But you two are very different people and very different dancers, because I feel like Leydi comes into the room and she's like, boom, bam, I'm here and I'm wearing my Mickey shit and I'm just like ready to go and I'm dancing and I'm moving my hips
Shaking
and I'm flipping my hair. Yeah, like
she'll wear red lipstick behind her mask.
Yeah.
It's really a tight.
Yeah. Like that's Leydi, okay? Like Leydi, like, yeah.
I'll put my hair down when it's time for the last.
Yeah. She does. Rachel Lamb is very like, if she wasn't one of my best friends, I don't even know, like I would know she was in the class, but if I was another student, I'd be like, oh, who's that? Like, cause she is very quiet and methodical, which is why
6 Enneagram.
Yeah. I'm a big nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that that's why you get really excited about like the mechanics of things and like the theories and the principles and like
I could just Sudoku my way into jazz. All will be well.
So I know that when you talk about the beginning stages of things, I'm like, oh, this bitch probably researched so much before you even stepped foot into a studio.
The number of YouTube videos, and then you're like, do I go take private classes? Do I go, like, what do I do in secret so I can show up and not embarrass myself? And then you go in and you're traumatized.
And I think what I want to point out, because you and I were talking about this, Rachel Lamb, is no matter how many YouTube videos you do or how many online classes or how many private lessons you do, when you show up to a group class in a group setting, it is different. It just is. And the highs are a lot higher and the lows are a lot lower.
Especially when you break into groups.
Yeah. Which I tell this to new people because I always see like people see stuff like, oh my God, we're performing. Like that's what they do when you break into groups. I just would like to say that in every dance class, there is normally you warm up and you learn choreography and then you break into groups. It's just the pattern and the structure of the class. Yeah. And I always turn around to the new person and say, it's so we can breathe in between. Like, because they're seizing up thinking it's like, performance time, and people do bust out their phones and like video themselves for their Instagrams and do whatever during that time. But really it's just so you can breathe and cheer on another person and also get used to being cheered on, which for me is something that is not my natural instinct when I hear people yelling while I'm moving my body.
Sorry, that's our PA getting water with some ice. Yeah. Hey, Lucas.
Hey, Theo.
Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like that's something, I mean, I don't know if everybody experiences that, but for me, I did have to be in class for months hearing other people cheer for me in a group and not think someone's like laughing at the way that I'm dancing, which is really sad. But like now, I mean, even if I'm at a wedding or somewhere and someone is laughing at me, my brain has like completely 180'd where it's like, no, they're cheering me on. And it doesn't even matter to me. Like, you can't be broken. And you know what? That's the kind of confidence I wish on everybody. Just that blind
confidence
to
in
the
your
rest
movement.
Of the world. Yeah. So that was like a huge growth thing for me in group classes, is just changing the way that you interpret any kind of response to your movement.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember when I don't remember which class it was. It was like a videography or video dance class. I don't remember. But like they do like the pop diva songs and then you strut and do your thing. And I remember we broke into groups. I was like, what? We're breaking into groups, and they're like, yeah, okay, group 1, group 2. I was in group 1. I was always in group 1. Even in your class, Mallory, for some reason, I always ended in group 1.
It's because you stand on the front side. So that, I don't know, you're always on that side of the class.
I don't know. But yeah, once I find my spot in class, I find it. But, and I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, these people are going to judge me. Like, oh my God, my career's over as a dancer. Not that I ever had a career to begin with, but like, but it really, once you get used to it, like after you split up into groups and you perform for other people, it's not really even like, it's like, for a breather, like you're doing your own thing and you get used to it.
And also you paid for the whole hour. You get no wins if you like sit out the groups part, which I've seen a lot of people do, which is sad because even if you're terrible, most people are on the sidelines, not actually paying attention. They're cheering along like they're supposed to, and they're marking the choreography in their head or marking it with you, or 2, they're in the dance with you and they're in your group and they're not looking at you at all either. So if that gives you a little bit of confidence, where like there's no one being like, look how bad this. I've never noticed. Even if it's a beginner and there is someone who's terrible, I've never been like, oh my god, look how bad they are and how far they have to grow. Like no one thinks this.
Even in professional dance classes, my entire career, LA, New York, Atlanta, et cetera, I have never encountered someone who was talking shit about someone on the sidelines. You just don't. And if that person is doing that, fuck them. Like that's something about them, because I have never in 30 years seen or heard of someone doing that.
That is so true. When you think of, that's so true. Like when I recall like the times I split into groups and I was watching the other group, I wasn't no way paying attention to what they were doing. I was over here like marking the music in the mirror, like trying to figure out what I'm doing. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm like, I don't even remember what I looked like. By like, no one. Love you guys, but no one's actually watching you. So go and get your full hour's worth. Do it. Get used.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, get used to being watched, because there's a lot of things about groups that are important to practice. Like a lot of times with groups, you spread out on the floor. So you learn the choreography and then you move locations, and then all of a sudden the choreography in your brain is gone because you're looking in the mirror in a different location. That happens to me. And just things like little aspects like that it's good to get the practice of breaking in the group, doing the whole thing, going all out. It's just like when you film yourself for the first time, which I do recommend filming yourself if other people are comfortable with it, because it's fun to see your growth over the years and be like, oh man, I thought I like really nailed that dance like 6 months ago, but I've grown so much since that. Like my hips move so much better. It is good to have like that timestamp if other people are comfortable with it. But like we're not about to put it on Instagram or whatever, but like I think it is good to like have it for yourself. And so like it's good when you break out in groups to have like those opportunities, and because sometimes when you film yourself you forget all your choreography, just like when you break out in a group, like you had it in your spot, now you broke out in a group and you forgot it. So just get practice at all stages and get your money's worth.
Also, how many times, and I'm always like, I choreographed it and I forget it all the time too. Like we'll be in groups and I'm like, again for me, because it happens. That's why I'm like, and again, I'm like the one leading the class, and how many times do I fuck up the choreography? All the time. Again, no one's going to be like, wow, this person really fucked up. If anything, when I've been in classes where it's really fucking hard and I see someone else who's like fucking up, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like it's not just me.
And it's like the same spot too. You're like, yep, real tricky that one.
You're like, that drag step gets me every time. Aww. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and Lady, if I can, we can cut this out if we need to, but because I don't want to cut you out. I don't want to call you out, but we've actually talked about this in class. Something that you do in groups that I think a lot of people do is that you do stand on the front side, and no matter how small these groups are, y'all, she is like running into the wall at some point in choreography, and I'm like, finally, I was like, Lady, do you think you could step away?
This is what you did. This is what you did.
She's like turning bright red, by the way.
This is what you did. You're like, this is how you start whenever you want to kind of give, not a lecture, but you want to kind of give them not a come to Jesus. You just want to lecture them, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're like, hey guys, I just want you guys to be aware of the space.
If you could see Ladies' movements right now, it's pretty spot on for what I do.
It looks like a modern dance.
Yeah.
Of the space that's around you, yeah? Like, let's just...
the yeah that will haunt me till I die. Yeah.
She's like, I want you guys, like, to own the space. And then she turns to me, she's like, Lady, you keep running into the wall. To be more specific.
Do you hear her evil laugh?
Literally, she's like, I just want you guys to be more aware of the space. And I'm over here like, just like, well, okay, la, 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 la. And then she's like, Lady.
Because also this is, again, Lady and Rachel Lamb's so different, because Rachel Lamb's probably like, every note is for me. And Lady's like, la da 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 da, I'm going to Disneyland this week. So that's why I was like, Lady. Because no matter how many times I gave the note, and then I think I gave you the note and you still hit the wall the next time. And I was like, because you and there's another student, a lot of students do this. A lot of students do this because they'll stand in the same place every week, and I'll be like, hey, so I noticed that we moved over a few feet, but somehow that leaf at the end is still in the wall. And I think like this might be an assumption, but I think a lot of people, it's because it's like a form of self-sabotage. Like we're like, you know what? The leap's really fucking hard. I'm not going to have quote unquote space for this.
And it's going to get a nice mark.
Half
Yeah,
the time, that
nice
was
mark.
my thought process. I'm like, I don't know if it's a chasse, then step, or leap, or the chasse, and then step, leap. And then I was like, I'll just run into the wall. Don't have to do it.
Yeah. And I think that this is where I think it's great for people to be aware of their habits, because again, it's not just you. So like half of my students do this at some point in some class. And so if that is you, I just want to invite you to own the space. Yeah.
You were my teacher for 2 years. I have your mannerisms down in a classroom setting. I have them down. I wish we were recording this video. I would literally go all out.
We'll probably have to do the next ones recorded with our faces.
I know. Well, it would be hilarious to see all my students, just because Rachel Lamb has me down too. Sometimes just like in life, she'll do something and I'm like, that was really good. It's like looking in a mirror. Because I use you can't see me right now, but I use my hands a lot. And there's always this like thought process before I say something. So especially in a class, I'm like, that's why it's like, I just want you to like own the space, y'all. Yeah, because I'm like thinking about it, and I like want to be really intentional with my words.
She'll be like, because when we're transitioning, we need to make sure that we're all just in sync. I don't know. I can't think of anything on the spot.
No, that is absolutely correct. There's usually like a heel pop at some point.
Your body.
Yeah, because it's your body. You can touch it when and how you want. Okay. So anyways, yeah. That's so funny. Also, so good. The at the end. I'm like, absolutely. Every time I catch myself and I'm like, stop it. Yeah. I would love to know also, Leydi, I mean, this is kind of what we talked about before with like the light at the end of the tunnel, but what are some things I guess let me not ask a leading question. Are there moments in your day-to-day life where you've noticed, my practice, Rachel, I would say, as a dancer, or my training as a dancer, my experiences and journey as a dancer has affected me on a day-to-day level?
Oh, yeah. This is going to sound, and I don't want to go like on a dark, depressing way, but I will say
You
though.
love dark and depressing. I'm a Scorpio.
Let's spice it up, y'all.
See, I'm a Leo, so.
Oh, okay. You're like, let's keep it light and fiery.
No, but I will say though, like, and I'm sure like,
Okay, start from the beginning.
okay.
And this is a point that we would normally have sponsors. So I just would like you to know this could be you. Inserted into that spicy little break. And we're back.
So what was the question again?
Are there moments in your day-to-day life just as a human where you feel like you've seen your journey as a dancer show up, that things that have altered you?
Yeah. Obviously, the idea of consistency has been more ingrained, because usually I would like start new projects or start things that I want to do and then just like leave it and because I would give up. But then I think like after my journey as a dancer, because I'm still like taking dance classes till this day, just being able to stick with it, like the idea of consistency, I feel like has kind of been more ingrained in me. But I also want to say like with your specific dance class, and I don't know if like a lot of women or men struggle with this, but like as a plus size dancer, like I know there was like a lot of insecurities at the beginning when I started dancing at a studio like this. And I think like going to like a dance class like yours, seeing all different body types, all different ages, and not letting that block and that like insecurity get to me has really translated to like my life, in the sense of like I'm like, nobody, at the end of the day, and I say this in a loving way, nobody cares. Like nobody cares. Like it's all in your head. Like if you're starting like super late in life, or you're like, you know, like race, your body type, whatever, like it's
flexibility or lack thereof.
Exactly. You know, like we talk about like our mutual friend who started dance in her late teens, like 18, 19. It's like, these are all limiting beliefs in your head, and you just disidentify and detach, and you just do it anyway. And that's pretty much how you overcome. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like with your specific class and just taking like lessons I learned from your dance class and moving forward is like these blocks and these limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves, these narratives and these stories that we tell ourselves are literally just fear. And the only way to, as cliche as it sounds, the only way to overcome those fears is to just go towards the fear. And then you're going to realize like wasn't that big of a deal. Like nobody cares. We talk about like doing groups like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm the worst dancer ever or whatever. Nobody
Like, do leaps look better if you're a 9-year-old Russian hypermobile child with like more than 180 splits? Sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful lines, visuals, I get it. But you can still do a leap if you're in your 30s and you point your toes, or your 50s and it's like a small leap off the floor and it's on beat and like and that's what it looks like on your body, and you can still do that. Like it doesn't need to be, you don't have to have like this idea that it needs to be some other kind of visual that it is on someone else's body. Like I've seen, especially when it comes to like roll-ups and like hair whips, if you can't touch the floor or anything else, but your like legs are straight and you do your best at it, and and it's on beat, it still looks really good. And so I think like you shouldn't let the things that you can't do stop you from doing all the things that you can improve on, and like think that like it needs to look a certain way on your body type.
It's just the stories that our mind wants to like fuck with us, but really like once you just keep doing it, it's just, I don't want to say you become desensitized. Like I'll say like when we were going to do our performance, there was literally like women of all ages, of all experiences, of all like body types, and we were killing it. Like we all killed it. Like I remember I think she was like 60 something, I don't remember, but she literally like was as energized as the youngest person there, which I think was Shu. So but it's just, if there's anything I could say as a girl who started as a plus size dancer and later in life as dancing, like these are all the stories that your mind wants to fuck with you. If you really are interested and you want to do it, like just do it, because then eventually you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this limiting belief held me back, because I had an image of how flexible a dancer had to be, or how experienced, or how she had to look, or he had to look, or whatever. So,
and I enjoy dance so much. I mean, like I wish I didn't like feel like I needed to do yoga for 2 years before I started dance. Like I mean, and a lot of it has to do with like how uncomfortable I was during some of the warm-ups and other things, and I don't know what it would have been like to have to start without the flexibility I came in with, which was still not that much, but more like average instead of like super inflexible. And I'm like, I could have just started and enjoyed this earlier and understood that like it's just going to look a certain way on my body and I can still do things and enjoy it and grow every single class.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say in terms of body image, I feel like that is such a relevant issue, especially growing up in the dance community. Hi, Ellie. We have a cat that's joining us. I would say that so often, because I was not the thinnest girl in the group ever, and I was always coveting the body of the thinnest girl. And I was like, if I just get that skinny, then I too can be winning all the competitions, and I too can be winning titles. And then I ended up getting that skinny, and then I found new issues, Yeah. And I think that is where, for me at least, I was like, oh, this isn't about what's happening on my body. Like this is something internal that I need to like work through, and not to oversimplify body stuff, because absolutely, especially in the dance world, I'm sure that I had that idea because it was planted in me that, I needed to be a certain size to dance professionally, which also, LOL friends, not correct, because I see professional dancers who are all body shapes and sizes. And that's not to say that they don't maybe have different hurdles than girls or boys who are, a size 0 or smaller.
Stereotypical, body,
absolutely. Yeah. But I have found that as an adult, stepping into a dance class now is more empowering for my body. Like if I'm struggling with body image, actually stepping into a dance class makes me feel better.
Amen.
Because I see all the different people, ages, sizes, backgrounds, body types, and I'm like, look at what my body can do.
Amen.
Instead of what it looks like. And even when I look at it, I'm like, oh, but I look fucking great. Like, look at me move my hips in a way that I can only move it with this body.
Amen.
Because if it was any different, it would look different, and it doesn't make it better or worse, but this is the body that I have right now, and look at her fucking move. So I appreciate you talking about that, because I think that is super relevant in the dance world, whether you're a young competition kid, you're at ABT, or you're an adult. Because just because you come in as an adult and you're not, it's a recreational studio, I think that body image still comes with that.
For sure.
Because you're staring at your body in the mirror for hours on end every week. And it gets to you one way or the other. And your body looks different every day, and it feels different every day. And I think the more I focus on what it can do and what it's capable of instead of what it looks like, that's, I know, helped me. But it's hard. It's hard sometimes, because sometimes you're like, am I really going to put on my sports bra and leggings right now and go take class? And it's like, yeah, because why not? Like, and it's nice to see other people who have bodies that are similar to mine or bodies that are different than mine that like have it all hanging out. And you're like, why the fuck would I hide this shit?
I know.
You know?
It's empowering. Like when you see like, because I remember in one of my dance classes, I remember seeing a girl who had a similar body type to mine, but she was like literally like in like mini shorts and like a sports bra. And I was like, and I'm over here like super scared. Like, what are they going to say? Oh my God. Like, nobody cares. Yeah. Nobody gives a fuck. Like nobody cares. And I think also like for me, like once, like you're right, like once you see what your body can do, like personally guys, my favorite type of dance is Latin. Like I love taking all the Latin classes and Latin jazz and all of that. Obviously I love technique and everything, but like where I really immerse and lose myself and have like a spiritual experience is honestly with Latin, like salsa and Latin jazz and everything. But once I'm like I literally, when I'm really in that class, in Carlito's class, like for example, like I remember like losing myself so much. I'm like, I forgot where I was for a second. Cause I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm with Pitbull on a stage, like dancing, like I'm on tour with him or whatever. But it's true. Like, it's like, I'm not thinking about that, you know? And like, or like in one of like Mallory's classes, when we would do anything to do, y'all, I love twerking. And Mallory's class involves a lot of twerking and struts and everything. And I remember like I would get like a choreography down in your class. I'm like, I would put my hair down and I'm like, oh, these bitches about to see. But I would literally like, I don't care. Like it was so fun. And then seeing my progress and, you know, Rachel talked about recording yourself. Like, you gotta just get past those blocks and those limiting beliefs and because if not, they're just gonna grab a hold of you and you could be missing out on like one of the best experiences of your life.
And that is such a huge part of the growth thing because again, like Mallory and I just went to a class last night and I'm terrible at floor twerking. I have like no skill in it. I've worked on it a couple times in like a soca class and
oh my gosh, the soca class. Yeah. Rachel got me into soca.
Is Trinidad. Yeah, it's like it sounds like calypso, I think is what it's short for, and it's a specific style of dance, and we had some like kind of like floor twerking in it. And so last night in the class that we did, I like just dove to the floor and I was like, this I know does not feel or look correct, but it doesn't matter because if you don't go all out, you'll never work on it ever. So you did it. And I'm like, yeah, even though it was like we were recording it, I'm like, this is probably screwing up the video. I don't care. I'm like, you dive and you do it. And there's a certain amount of fun that comes with that confidence, knowing that you're like, I know where I am and it's not in the right place and I don't care.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to ask. I'm going to ask both of you. What is your favorite genre style of dance? Rachel?
Oh, that's a good question. I really like hip hop. That's like the in living color kind of hip hop specifically. And I feel like that's a difficult question to answer because I feel like there's dance that you're like, oh man, I really like this style of dance, but I'm not good at it. Mm-hmm. Or there's like dance where you're like, this looks great on my body. I always feel great when I'm doing this. And like, I enjoy doing that. So I like kind of have those things where I'm like, there's dance that I really, truly like. Like, I think it'd be so cool to do like more lyrical and contemporary, but every time I've done it, like, I just hate the way my body feels in those shapes because I'm not flexible and like, you know, also moving slower through sounds is oddly quite more difficult for me than doing, you know, going like in faster choreography. And like, I mean, I have that same struggle in heels. Like there's some music in heels that like you're moving through clay and it just like, it feels like your transitions don't look good and stuff. So there's a lot of dance that I really enjoy, but I have to work on before I feel as free as I do in some other styles of dance.
That's how I feel about like, cause I will love Latin. Like, that's literally, I think my calling in life is to open up a Latin dance studio, honestly. But I will say like jazz is also one, like I relate, like I love jazz, but it's one that I'm still like kind of like still trying to learn and
it's heavy technique based.
Absolutely. You know. What about you, Mallory?
It changes. It's funny because I used to say contemporary. I think that at this point, I think hip hop at this point in my life, or like a good cardio dance class, because again, it's so free and liberating. I'm thinking of a specific class that both of you know about. That is
we love this class.
There's a class in Atlanta, and I mean, I would pay every last dime to take it as a drop in because it's just the interesting thing about it is it's not a heavy technique based class. And the thing that is so wonderful about it is the energy of the group affects you.
The community is everything in that class.
It's everything in that class. It's super positive. It's super encouraging. And
he's had people take his class
decades.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts with that teacher who attracts like an incredible group of people.
Yeah. And like, I think that also just the thing that is the most fun about that class is you forget yourself and you're like, you feel the music and you're not self-conscious. And it's weird to be in a class where you just feel music and you're not self-conscious for an entire hour and you go all out. You're not like, oh, is this too much? Or like, oh man, like this is, and then like, I mean, I try stuff and I'm a little offbeat and like, even like sometimes the instructor will walk around, we laugh about it because like, you're real close, you know, because you're trying like a new thing or you're like, you know, really trying to mimic something and you can't, you know, quite get it. But there's just something about that kind of freedom to do that and like not being self-conscious and you carry it into other, like I realized that like I carried that into other aspects of dance where I stopped caring what my face looked like. Like these are all real things. You're staring at a mirror. I mean, come
literally.
on. And so like, you know, and like you go into a bar and like you hear music and you just move to it and you don't care what it feels like or looks like. And it's probably for the better, to be honest. Like, I mean, Valerie laughs because like I was at a bar and she's like, did you just like sashay? I can't even talk right now. Did you just like come out of the bar jazz walking?
Because this girl, we were at a bar in New York, like a little hole in the wall pub, and I don't know what music was, but it wasn't anything that spicy. And she just came out of this like bathroom that's like the size of like a toilet, and just like put her arms out like she was like in All That Jazz, and just like strutted out.
What happened was they were out of paper towels. So I just washed my hands and I flicked the water off my hands, and I was walking out of it, and I was like, I mean, you get used to walking like you do in jazz class with your heels and stuff, like looking like, you know, you're like one foot in front of the other.
Now you are walking to Walgreens like that.
Yeah, like this is actually the definition of walking to Walgreens now. Yeah, please watch our jazz walk video. I think, jazz walk and like the walking in heels videos. But I think like, you know, you get used to walking like that. And so I just remember flicking the water off my hands and walking over to where she was in. She's like, did you just like jazz walk out of the bathroom? And I was like, I sure did.
Dang.
Yeah, it was like an accident. I know. Yeah, Rachel M's become very infamous for just like randomly dancing in random places.
Were famous.
Yeah, the whole bar thinks we're like professional dancer, famous people, which like, you know, sure.
Let the people think what they want.
Yeah. Give the people what they want. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that this class in particular, and I will say, I think a lot of my most beautiful, like getting chills moments as a student have been, as an adult especially, have been cardio dance classes.
They're
like what would be categorized as cardio dance. But a thing that I also think is important to know is not all cardio dance classes are the same. Not all jazz classes are the same. Not all hip hop classes are the same. Because a lot of times people will be like, well, which class should I start with? And I'm like, follow your heart, first of all. But second of all, one hip hop class might be more pop and locky, and the other one might be more in living color. And then the other one might be more like twerking, shaking your ass. So this is where I encourage you to try different classes from different teachers, and even different teachers on different nights. Like if you like a teacher on Monday night, maybe they teach something like a house class on Thursday, which is different than their like regular choreography hip hop on Monday. Same thing with jazz, because sometimes jazz to people is like more on the contemporary side, and sometimes it's more on the like very modern side, and sometimes it's like musical theater. Yeah.
Or lyrical. Or burlesque.
Yeah.
So, or like Falcon's cheerleader.
Yes.
There's like dance team jazz, like everyone shows up in sneakers and you're like, what class am I in?
Yeah, you didn't get the memo. Yeah. And so I think that for me though, I just really love classes where I can let loose and be myself. And a huge part of that is just the people that are in that class and the person who's teaching it. But I just, there's something so great about shaking your ass in a class.
I love shaking my ass.
It's so good. It's so freeing.
And when it goes to the beat, it's like magic. As someone who shakes her ass frequently, not on the beat, when it does align, it's beautiful.
See, one of my favorite classes, it's like the reggaeton version of this class we're talking about. It's literally called reggaeton. But same thing. It's like when I'm like shaking my ass, because you guys, I love reggaeton, like it's awesome. And when I'm shaking my ass in this class, even the teacher is like, lady, you, every time I look at you, you're shaking your ass. Like you just, when it's not even in the choreography, but you find a way to I'm like, just follow your heart, as Mallory says, follow your heart.
Well, it's funny because again, you two are such different people and dancers. Both of you shake your asses and whip your hair every chance you get, especially in a freestyle moment, especially at the end of a combo.
I'm whipping my hair in the jumping jacks.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's healthy, but I don't care.
And then she's doing a toe touch somewhere. I'm like, this bitch is just doing toe touches.
Be me.
Yeah. And I think that's part of bringing yourself to something, because not everyone's going to do that. But also, like, this is why I'm always like, learn to touch your body. Learn to touch your body. It's your body, man or woman. Like, it is your body to touch. To touch?
I'm going to use that. I'm going to start using
You're like,
that.
can I touch you? But it's your body to touch when and how you want it. And I think that a huge part of dance is getting to know your body and just knowing what it does, what it looks like, but also like what it feels like. What does it feel like when you touch it? Which like even now sometimes I'm like, why did I just air my body? Like I could have just touched my thighs.
Yeah. I love shaking my ass.
Yeah. You're like, if you get nothing else from this podcast, just
find a class, shake your ass.
Yeah.
Find a class. That should be a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Find a class and go shake your ass.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any other specific questions, but do you have anything else, words of wisdom, anything that you want to share with people that are beginner dancers or just in general?
I think I got very lucky because I had good teachers. So I tell people, like, don't give up. Like, literally, Mallory, we're gonna shout them out.
She's on the verge of tears.
Like, literally, no, like you, Carlito, I know, like, I'm saying these people obviously in a positive light. Like you, Carlito, one of my former teachers, D, like, it's like having a good teacher really honestly makes it or break it. So that's why I tell people, like, just keep moving forward and don't give up, because you will find your spark. And if you really want this, like, it'll align for you if you really are interested. And of course, like, I don't really have anything else to say aside from, like, just keep, like, be consistent. Like, like just taking Mallory's class one time a week, I progress so much. And you'd be surprised at what you can do. You'd be surprised, like, all the things you think you can't do, like, when you actually do it, you're like, whoa, like I can do hard things, you know? And I wish I had something better to say, but I don't. I think this is all I gotta say.
No. I think that's great. And I think that it's nice to see you get like this, because I feel like this is how I am when I talk about dancing specifically. Like, nothing else in the world makes me feel this way. And I love a lot of things in this world, but dancing that's why I'm like, it feels spiritual. Like, it is something, like, right, like I can't, y'all can't see me, but I'm just like, my whole body is just like, you just feel it, and it goes through your being, and it shakes your soul, and then it like makes you a different person on the other side.
It's so interesting because dance is such like an outwardly physical thing that you can like look at and see, and it's movement based. But there's a lot of transformations and growth that happen from the inside with dance. And it's absolutely crazy that's what is probably the biggest transformation that happens to a lot of people who start dancing. Is it's like not even what your body learns to do. It's just like how your mind feels about movement, and like feels about being in front of other people, and like doing something vulnerable in front of a lot of people. And like also starting something that you're not good at as an adult is really hard. And
absolutely.
And not being good at it for a while, and like just showing up, and then everybody who's like, you're taking dance classes as an adult, like you get that from other people who just don't understand like your drive to want to do something like that. Yeah.
Our next t-shirt.
Literally, like, I mean, this isn't dance, but like, y'all, like, I'm obsessed with Disney, and I'm literally going to Disney World this weekend, and people are like, oh my gosh, but like, you're an adult, you go with kids, right? No, I go by myself. I take road trips by myself. Y'all, I have a Disney annual pass now. And
there's a hair flip.
It was a compulsive buy. I don't know why we're talking about my Disney obsession.
It was a compulsive buy.
I got my heart broken, y'all. And I was like, I deserve to be happy. And I bought a Disney annual pass, and it was the best decision I ever made. But what I'm saying, though, it's like literally like dance, like for me, as like you were talking about, you know, just like the limiting beliefs and everything. And for me, like, you know, don't let these like I'm too old, or like I'm too big, I'm too whatever, I don't have the body, I don't have the flexibility, like literally
I don't have the bomb personality.
Literally it's the stories in your mind, and you will see like just
if you're a nerd, dance like a nerd. If you're a fiery Latina, dance like a fiery Latina. Like, be yourself.
Literally. And I was very lucky to get Mallory as a teacher. So
you both
sucks
were.
for y'all. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, y'all. I'm just kidding.
As someone who did PK turns for 7 months in a leaps and turns class before I had Mallory as a teacher,
oh, gosh.
we were very lucky.
We were very lucky.
And
sure.
I think that, thank you. I was very lucky to have you as students. I don't just say that to like return the compliment. I receive the compliment. I cry about it, and then I give you yours. But I think that that's the other thing. I remember when I was, it was almost 10 years ago when I sat in on a choreographer / dance teacher's class for like a report for school, whatever. And he was saying how this class that he teaches, it was essentially like a contemporary cardio dance class. He was like, yeah, people will come up and be like, I like broke up with my boyfriend, or I like got a new job, or because they feel so empowered from taking class. And even now, having danced for 30 years, I can tell, I was just talking about this earlier, I can tell when I haven't danced for a while, because I feel different in my body and how I feel about myself. And that's even with the 30 years of dance behind me. And I will be like, then I go take a class and I'm like, oh, there I am.
Yep.
It's like you get back into yourself, because there's just something that happens. And again, I don't feel this when I do a dance video on YouTube, even though I do them. I really do. There's like, Rachel, and there are a couple of videos of this one woman on YouTube who has incredible dance cardio classes, and I love them. It is not the same as stepping into a class and feeding off of the energy of someone else and all the other people there, because we all showed up today and we all deserve to be there.
And how exciting for beginners. Like if we are, step away. I haven't taken as many dance classes in the last 3 months because I canceled a membership. But when you get, Mallory, you're laughing. We all like kind of like backed off on dancing, but we've been taking a few classes this month, you and I, and Mallory's been picking up teaching stuff, and I'll take her class. And how exciting is it to be a beginner? And like, if we feel like we're coming back to, we're like, oh, there I am. Like you might be discovering you're like this deep down inside yourself person that no one has seen yet, because like you haven't explored this aspect of your personality. So that's really like, take that for like something exciting. Like you're gonna make a discovery and discover. And if you go all out and you really commit to it and you're okay with making a fool of yourself or all of those things, like it's gonna be amazing what you discover when you go to a dance class. And then you're like, God, how did I live my whole life without this part of my personality?
Yeah, absolutely. And even though I hate not being good at things, I love being a beginner sometimes, because I'm like, you're allowed to be bad. You're always allowed to be bad, y'all. But I feel like I'm like, it's expected that you're bad. It's expected that you're going to suck for a while. And that's like one of the gifts of being a beginner, is you can walk and be like, I don't know a fucking thing. And I'm paying to be here and you're going to fucking teach me. Like, you don't need to know. That's not your job. That's my job. That's the teacher's job. Like, that's why I can pay my bills. You know what I mean? That's why I'm always like, y'all, get your monies. Because I would find that actually beginners are almost harder on themselves than people who've been dancing a long time.
I remember the first, and that was when I like snapped out of it, when I was like, oh, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Or they're like, I was just, not just me, but like a lot of people I've noticed, like beginners are very apologetic, or they're very like, oh, I know I messed up, I'm so sorry. And I remember Mallory being like, you're fucking paying to be here. You're paying my rent. Why are you apologizing? And I'm just like, she's right. I'm paying to be here.
Like, because I'm like, if you were perfect, I don't have a job and I don't have a house. So thank you for having things to work on. And I think that that's a habit that a lot of people have. And I think that especially when we walk in as a beginner, I think that's why, to me, I'm like, the overarching theme is to take up space, because there's this, especially we see this across the floor when people stop halfway across the floor, especially if they're in the last group. They're like, and I'll just run off. Like,
and what will Mallory do? Lady, can you come out here?
With the music off.
And with the music off. And then I like step further. And then literally I'm like on the other side. And she's like, you're going to do all that again.
It's really just a variation of running into the wall.
Yeah, that's why I'm always like, take up the space. And this is something I think that translates, I've seen for students outside of the dance realm too, is that a lot of times if we're apologizing in the dance in the dance studio, we're apologizing outside the dance studio. And that's a whole other conversation. But I'm like, you don't need to apologize for asking questions.
It's like so yogi, like what happens on your mat happens in real life. What happens in the dance studio is a reflection of you out in public.
It's kind of low-key true, though.
I know. Yeah. I know. That's why I think it's such a self-exploratory process. And that's what I think is so beautiful, because I'm like, oh, even though I've been dancing for as long as I have and I've had all these different chapters, I feel like I'm still rediscovering my new sides of myself and this new person that I am. And that's why when I go
girl who comes out of the bathroom with a hair whip and
with all that jazz.
Yeah, all that jazz coming out. Yeah, and I think that, so even though there are times where I'm like, I thought I knew who I was and I thought I knew who I was as a dancer, and then it changes and then it morphs into something new, and it's really beautiful to find that as well, because I would say a lot of people in my classes too are people who are like, I did it in college or I did it in high school and then I haven't done it for 10 years or I haven't done it for 20 or 30 years and I'm just like kind of getting back into it. And they find, I feel, a new side of themselves. Like I feel like I see it even over the course of like one class, which is really beautiful, because you're like, oh, look at you, like
with your press-on nails, and your hoop earrings,
eyelashes. Y'all, I was a mess in this class. I was teaching a hip hop class, and I press-on nails are my new religion. Okay, it's what it is. I had like a baseball cap, some hoops, and some press-on nails.
Mico Dance is based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Like the most inefficient, I'm about to get an earlobe ripped out thing I could wear to a class. And I was teaching choreography, and then all of a sudden I heard pop, and I was like, ooh, shit, y'all. I think one of my nails is gone. And I was like, fuck. Okay, well, okay, fuck yeah. Okay, so then I took it and I like put it by the stereo, and then truly like, I think 60 seconds later, I was doing another one, was like, and I was like, oh, fuck, y'all. Another one's gone. So then I went and got the other one. And then by the end of the night, I only had half of my nails left. And one of them is missing. I don't know where it went. I was in the middle of the floor and it was just, she was gone. And so I was like, I got to text the dance owner and be like, I couldn't, if you find a nail, it's mine. But then this morning, was it? I found a random nail.
It appeared in her hoodie. It came back.
Ask and thee shall receive.
It jumped into the hoodie and followed her home. It's like, I don't want to be alone in this dance studio by myself. Lone press-on nail.
Which finger was it?
It was the middle one. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Because by the end of the night, it was like 3 on this hand and 2 on this hand, and they were just like random. And you bet I glued them on between classes. I was like, we can't go on with only half the nails. I got to have it on for the heels class. But yeah, I'm like, which is, again, I feel like dance helped me find that. That was like.
This makes me laugh, because when I took 2 years of dance before the pandemic, I had long blonde hair and fake eyelashes. When you said eyelashes, I was like, oh shit, I looked completely different before the pandemic.
I remember Blonde Rachel.
Oh yeah, and she had a great hair whip, that one. Blonde Rachel had a great hair whip. Picked up the light and everything.
Yeah, I feel like you change. I feel like even what you wear, how you style your hair, like everything I'll see change. Sure. And that's why it's also fun to record it, because you'll show me videos from even like 8 months ago, and I'm like, are you sure that was 8 months ago? That feels like it was like forever ago.
And like that was like a video that I was like, wow, I'm starting to look really good doing this. It's like 8 months before, and you look and you're like, just the way that your body starts to move different, or the way that you pick up musicality is different. I mean, I'm terrible with, for someone whose parents paid for 9 years of piano classes, I cannot count for the life of me. And I know I'm not the only one, but like it's fun when you dance on beat like you're supposed to.
There's such a rush to getting something for the first time. Yeah. I'm always like when my ass was actually shaking in class, I was like, this is it. I was like, I have arrived.
I made it in life.
I know, truly. I was like,
it took 70 minutes to fatigue those thighs and release. But once you did, that ass moved.
Also, okay, wait, this is, sorry. I'm like, thank you so much for listening, and 30 more minutes. Any final thoughts? Ladies like on the verge of tears, sharing something, and I'm like, and another thing, press on nails. I'm like, have we talked about hoop earrings? But something that made me think of in terms of different people and what they bring to it too, is that's also why you do groups. Just like a quick side note, you also do groups to watch other people because it's actually really fun to see how other people bring themselves to choreography into class, because no one looks the same and you're like, oh, we're all little snowflakes and no one looks the same. And some people have their press-on nails, and some people like Rachel are a nerd who rolled out in the middle of the night, and some people are like Leydi who's like, Wah-bah! I'm here, I'm shaking my ass.
I remember when I first started dance classes at this specific studio, I would come in like, sweats, like a t-shirt and, whatever. And then like towards like the end, I was literally like in tight ass leggings, my ass out, not really my ass out, but like my ass looked great in those and in a sports bra, and like my hair was down. I'm like, fuck y'all, I've arrived. Hair whipping and everything.
I'd show up and I'd have a dance teacher be like, we gonna sweat that hair out.
I remember you would, because we took this like pop class together before. This is when I felt like you were a bitch.
Look, I'm just a very methodical nerd in the corner, and like, you know what? I don't care what people think about me.
I remember Rachel.
I have a very active bitch face. I know that there's like a resting bitch face thing, but mine's like actively bitchy all of the time.
I remember Rachel seeing her for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, she seems like she knows what she's doing, and like she seems like she's like one of those dancers like, I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. And then I get to know her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's such a sweetheart.
She's saying this also, guys, about a girl who could not touch her toes for at least like 20 months. So, I mean, if that could be me, just think of what you can accomplish.
It's also funny because Rachel Am and I hated each other when we first met too.
Oh yeah, this is true.
No way. I didn't know this.
Absolutely. But we both ways. We've recently discovered this, that we both hated each other.
Yeah, we met in an acting class that we were together.
We're all actors, by the way.
We're all actors. And it was we were in an intensive class, so we were together like 6+ hours a week together. Because it was like the 6 hours, but then also like extra rehearsal time, and then
was it this Meisner class?
Yeah, we were in a Meisner class in Atlanta together, and we had to go see shows, and we ended up in like the same improv school too. So like we saw a lot of each other, and we did not like each other. And
we were in yoga together at the studio.
Oh yeah,
not hot yoga, y'all. This was pre-hot yoga.
This was pre.
That actually cured everything. That's when we got really close.
Yeah, we were like hanging out after like Saturday morning hot yoga, talking on the balcony until it was too cold. And then it was like January. We bonded. Yeah, but it was so funny because it was like that was like us in the beginning. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Mallory's very hot or cold on people. And she was real icy towards me. And I'm a person who like people think that I'm a bitch because I have a very active bitch face, but I try to smile to make them comfortable. So I did a lot of smiling at Mallory when we were in Meisner class.
Not what I recall.
Of course you wouldn't.
But now look at us.
Dancing together, trying to let other people know that you can dance and you deserve to be there too.
Yeah, truly. I think that is the biggest thing, is that's why we talk about accessibility a lot, is that it just doesn't feel accessible. And I don't mean just in terms of resources. I mean in terms of like, you're not allowed to be there, and you are allowed to be there. And no matter what anyone else says or does or makes you feel like, that is,
and even
that's
if you are like one of those like dancers who wants to be a professional or is a professional dancer or is an influencer dancer or is any, like you all deserve to be there. Mm-hmm. But I'm just trying to reach out to like anyone who might not fit that kind of mold and is like, I also want to do it too, but you feel some type of way about it. Like it's there for you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate you, Leydi, coming in today, being our first guest and chatting with us.
I was, again, to reiterate, I was one of the OGs.
Leydi's the reason I had a job, like a continuous job.
I went up to the owner's house with picket forks and everything. I'm just kidding. No, I literally advocated for Mallory to stay there because I was like, if she doesn't stay there, my life is over. But like, I'm glad it like transformed into like this beautiful, like into Mico dance. And like now, you guys are literally, it's not just the logo, like literally you guys, it's like from the beginning, like a 2-step turn or dancing at a wedding. I think that was one of your recent videos.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Hi. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just saying.
I appreciate it. Okay, so our PA/engineer set up our outro music.
Yeah,
and so
let's see if it works.
See if it works. Here we go.
Thank you for listening again, the Mico Podcast.
I'm Mallory, the teacher.
I'm Rachel, the beginner.
And our guest was
Leydi Morales.
Thanks. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.